moment you start walking with God, something shifts in the spiritual realm. People who once felt like family suddenly feel foreign. Relationships that used to flow now feel forced. And that friend who always had drama, they're nowhere to be found. If this sounds familiar, don't panic. You're not losing your mind, and you're not being abandoned. God is cleaning house. And sometimes the most loving thing He can do is remove the wrong people so the right ones can enter. Here's what most believers don't understand. When God starts removing toxic people from your life, it doesn't always look like a dramatic confrontation or a blown-up friendship. Sometimes it's quiet, subtle, a slow fade that leaves you wondering what happened. But make no mistake, when God is behind the removal, there are clear signs you can recognize. Today, I'm walking you through 7 undeniable signs that God is actively removing toxic people from your life. And by the end of this, you'll know exactly why that distance you're feeling isn't rejection, it's redirection. You'll understand why some doors are closing so others can open. And you'll finally have peace about the relationships that no longer serve your purpose. But before we dive in, let me tell you why this matters so much. Every toxic person in your life is a weight that slows down your spiritual progress. They drain your energy, cloud your discernment, and keep you operating below your potential. God sees this, and when He decides it's time for you to level up, He starts by clearing out what's holding you back. Sign number 1, you start feeling spiritually drained after being around them. This isn't about having a bad day or feeling tired after a long conversation. This is different. You walk away from their presence feeling like something was pulled out of you. Your peace is gone. Your joy feels dimmed. And you can't shake the heaviness that settles over your spirit. Here's why this happens. Toxic people operate in a different spiritual frequency than those walking with God. When you're growing in faith, your spirit becomes more sensitive to negative energy and ungodly influences. What you used to tolerate, you now recognize as poison. That person who constantly complains, gossips, or speaks death over situations. Your spirit is rejecting their influence because God is protecting your growth. This spiritual drain isn't weakness on your part, it's discernment. Your renewed mind is recognizing what doesn't belong in your life anymore. And when you consistently feel depleted after being around someone, God is showing you that their season in your life is ending. Sign number 2, they become uncomfortable with your growth. The moment you start praying more, reading your Bible, or talking about God's goodness, they change. They roll their eyes when you mention church. They make jokes about your faith. They try to pull you back into old conversations, old habits, old ways of thinking. Why does this happen? Because your light exposes their darkness. Your peace highlights their chaos. Your growth reminds them of their stagnation. And instead of being inspired to change, they become threatened by your transformation. They start questioning your decisions, criticizing your choices, and planting seeds of doubt about the path you're walking. They'll say things like, "You're becoming too religious," or "You think you're better than us now." But here's the truth. They're not upset about your faith. They're upset about losing control over you. When God is removing someone from your life, He'll often use their own discomfort with your growth as the catalyst. They'll create the distance themselves because they can't handle the version of you that's aligned with God's will. And honestly, this is mercy. Because the last thing you need is someone constantly trying to dim your light just so they can feel comfortable in their darkness. Sign number 3, divine interruptions start happening. You plan to meet up, but suddenly they cancel. You try to call, but they don't answer. Every time you attempt to connect, something gets in the way. These aren't coincidences. These are God-ordained interruptions, protecting you from influence you don't need. Maybe you kept trying to maintain a friendship, but every plan would fall through. Every conversation would get cut short. Every attempt to reconnect would hit a wall. Perhaps you thought it was bad luck or poor timing, but it was actually divine intervention. God knows the conversations that would discourage you. He knows the invitations that would derail you. He knows the moments when their influence would be strongest and your guard would be down. So he creates barriers. He orchestrates interruptions. He makes it impossible for them to access you during vulnerable seasons. Sign number 4, you lose the desire to share your victories with them. This one hits different because it happens in your heart first. You get a breakthrough, a promotion, an answered prayer, and they're not the first person you want to call anymore. You realize that sharing your joy with them would only invite their negativity, their doubt, or their attempts to minimize what God has done. Healthy relationships celebrate your wins. Toxic relationships find ways to diminish them. When God is removing someone, He'll shift your heart away from seeking their approval or validation. You'll stop looking to them for encouragement because deep down, you know they're not capable of genuinely celebrating your growth. This isn't about becoming prideful or cutting people off unnecessarily. This is about protecting the precious things God is doing in your life from people who would only contaminate them with their negativity. Sign number 5, their problems become more dramatic when you're around. Have you noticed how some people's chaos intensifies the moment you show up? Their emergencies multiply, their drama escalates, their need for your help becomes urgent and constant. Here's what's really happening. They've become dependent on your emotional energy, your prayers, your support to function. But when God is removing them, He's also removing your assignment to carry their burdens. Their increasing neediness isn't a cry for help, it's a desperate attempt to keep you trapped in their dysfunction. You'll notice their crises always happen when you're doing well. Their emergencies always coincide with your breakthroughs. Their need for rescue always comes right when God is trying to elevate you. This isn't coincidence. It's spiritual manipulation designed to keep you stuck in their cycle of chaos. Sign number 6, your discernment sharpens around their motives. Suddenly, you can see through their words to their real intentions. That person who always claimed to have your back, you realize they were actually undermining you behind closed doors. That friend who seemed supportive, you discover they were secretly competing with you or gossiping about your life. When God is preparing to remove someone toxic, He'll often pull back the veil and show you who they really are. You'll start noticing patterns you missed before. Red flags you overlooked become impossible to ignore. Conversations you once thought were innocent reveal themselves as manipulative and self-serving. This heightened discernment isn't paranoia, it's protection. God is giving you eyes to see what's been hidden so you won't fight for relationships that were never genuine in the first place. When the mask comes off and you see their true nature, it becomes easier to let them go. Sign number 7, you start praying differently about them. This one is perhaps the most telling sign of all. Instead of praying for your relationship to be restored, you find yourself praying for their well-being from a distance. Instead of asking God to bring them closer, you're asking Him to bless them on their own journey, apart from you. Your prayers shift from, God, fix this relationship, to, God, heal them and help them find their path. You stop asking for reconciliation and start praying for their spiritual growth, even if it means they grow away from you. This change in your prayer life is God aligning your heart with His will for both of your lives. When you can genuinely pray blessings over someone while accepting that they're not meant to stay in your life, you've reached spiritual maturity. You've learned to love people without enabling them, to care without carrying their burdens, and to release without resentment. Here's what you need to understand about God removing toxic people from your life. It's not punishment, it's preparation. Every person He removes creates space for someone better. Every toxic relationship that ends makes room for a godly connection that will actually support your purpose. The signs we've covered today aren't random occurrences. They're God's mercy in action. He's protecting what He's building in you. So, stop fighting for relationships that God is trying to end. Stop forcing connections that no longer serve your spiritual growth. When you feel that pull to chase after someone who's clearly being removed from your life, remember this: God's removals are always followed by His additions. The right people are coming. The healthy relationships are on their way. But they can't enter until you release what needs to go. Trust the process. Embrace the pruning. And watch how God replaces every toxic person with someone who actually celebrates the person He's calling you to become. Drop the word "released" in the comments. If you're ready to stop fighting for relationships God is trying to end, your breakthrough is on the other side of your release.